Stay tuned after the credits for a special message from Lieutenant Worf.
Welcome back to Giant Freakin' Robot. When Star Trek fans think of Klingons, they think of Worf. He's the only character to star in now 3 Star Trek shows, and he was also the first Klingon in Starfleet. Except, in a way, he was not the first.
Impossible.
Many years before Worf took his station aboard the Enterprise D, a Klingon ensign served on the original Enterprise under the command of Captain Kirk. His name was Konom, and if you're a Trekkie, then it's up to you to make sure his name is not forgotten.
We care about you.
The year was 1984. By then, Star Trek had been off television for more than a decade. It would be another 3 years before Star Trek: The Next Generation arrived. The franchise only existed in movies, and the next one of those was more than 2 years away. Star Trek fans, starving for new adventures, had only one place to turn: comics. Star Trek comics had existed before. They had a short run from the company Gold Key in the 60s, and Marvel briefly had the license in the very early 80s. They never quite caught on. But in 1984, DC Comics launched its first run of Star Trek comics, and when they did it, they gave us an Enterprise with new additions to the crew. One of the most significant of these was Konom, Starfleet's first Klingon officer. Konom appeared in the very first issue of DC's original Star Trek run, a creation of prolific Star Trek writer Mike W. Barr. He would remain a fixture through all 56 issues. More than a background character, Konom became a pivotal figure and one that resonated with fans. So when Trekkies learned that Star Trek: The Next Generation would have a Klingon officer on the bridge,
And I play the token Klingon.
they hoped they'd be getting a character modeled after Konom. What they got was the exact opposite. Unlike Lieutenant Worf, Konom was a pacifist and a dedicated family man. He fell in love with a human colleague.
I would require a Klingon woman for companionship.
They adopted a mentally challenged, half-human and half-Klingon and cared for him in an attentive, loving family environment aboard the Enterprise and the Excelsior. Their time aboard the Excelsior was created to bridge the gap between the original Enterprise destruction and the creation of the A. In the comics, Kirk took command of the NX-2000 while he waited for his next ship. In stark contrast to Konom, Worf aspires to be a warrior and often struggles to control his bloodlust.
Death to the opposition!
When he has a child, he neglects that child and sends him to live with someone else.
I have tried to be a good father, to give him guidance. But he seems to have his own mind about some things.
Where Worf grew up on Earth, Konom was raised in the Klingon Empire, even serving in the Klingon Defense Force, before defecting to the Federation. Konom puts everything on the line out of his love and respect for Federation ideals. Worf spends most of his time in the Federation obsessed with figuring out what it means to be a real Klingon and idealizing the violent honor culture that Konom rejects. This first DC attempt at Star Trek comics, featuring unique characters like Konom, Bearclaw, and Nancy Bryce interacting with familiar heroes like Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, was a success. For Trek fans in those empty years, they were what kept the franchise alive in their minds. While those comic book adventures would eventually be relegated to unofficial beta canon, that doesn't mean they'll be forgotten. And maybe, someday, somehow, the brave and principled Ensign Konom will finally get his due as the true first Klingon in Starfleet.
Enough!
Thanks for watching and remember to subscribe. This has been Giant Freakin' Robot.
Do not approach me unannounced, especially when I'm eating. If you will excuse me.